So, good morning. I did send out the agenda. Was everybody able to find it, or do I need to share it on the screen?
Okay.
All right. Um, we've got introductions, brief introductions. We've got a minute or two each about task one, task two, any questions about task three that we might want to have, and then any challenges, grows, skills, anything else that might be good for the betterment of the group. Um, I'll go ahead and start with the introduction. My name is Jacob Wood. I am currently a economics teacher at South Garner High School in Garner, just south of Raleigh. Um, and favorite food right now is coffee because it's all that keeps me going when it comes time to do these things. If anybody else wants to go, I did not assign. Well, I did assign. I guess Amanda, you're up.
I'll go. My name is Amanda Skellin. I got offered assistant principal starting in January, so I am on a learning path while I do this class. Um, and I guess my favorite food would be Mexican, any type, any kind of Mexican food. And I am from we're military. My husband's military, but we are now finally retired here. So North Carolina's home in Goldsboro.
All right, Kelsey.
Good morning, y'all. So I'm Kelsey. I currently work at Ebenezer Middle School in Sumter, South Carolina. I have been a teacher there for about 3 years, and it's my second year doing math. My favorite food, Italian. So I'm gonna have to say Italian's my favorite.
All right. And Corey. Corey, you're muted.
How y'all doing this morning?
Doing well.
Yes, I'm a school counselor at East Columbus Junior Senior High School. I have seventh through ninth grade, but I have worked um, high school as well. Um, I'm from a small town called Clarkton, North Carolina. If you look on the map, you probably won't even notice it, but that's okay. But yes, I've been at East Columbus going on 5 years now as a school counselor, and I'm also a former sheriff's deputy as well as a school board member. So that's a little bit of little facts about myself.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. We're gonna look at task one. We were prompted to talk through our leading of the PLC, our any school models, glows, grows, things to learn. Amanda, will you start us off with your reflections on sort of task one, just in general?
Task one, we met, my principal let us have a 2 hour window, which was nice. We backed it up with their specials. So we did their PLC and then we lined it up with their specials. We actually got a lot accomplished in that one meeting because 1 hour goes really fast when you have so much to cover. Um, at our meeting, we were in the middle of doing M-class testing. And so what we ended up discussing was what had we seen from beginning a year to middle of year? What were some of the strengths, the weaknesses? We had a lot of new enrollees, and what were their strengths and weaknesses? We did not have a problem breaking down like the school improvement team. Our principal's really good about going over that every month at our SIT meetings. So that was an easy piece that we looked at and but our PLC at that time, we knew we wanted to focus on M class. We just didn't know what subgroup and we were waiting for the data to come in. At that time, everyone did agree to be a part of the PLC. And then my principal um, has been joining us. So I did not put her on the team because I don't know of her schedule all the time, if she's there or not there. But she has been able to make it to every meeting, and we do it right after all the kids arrive. So it's 8 o'clock in the morning. So not too much is falling apart at that time.
Right.
Um, let me see what else. Uh, um, what else do you want me to talk here?
I mean, just I
I
guess
mean,
what
it's
we're
kind of
looking that's
okay.
that's good. Corey, what about your task one experience?
Um, as far as my task one experience, we with my PLC we did meet, but it was kind of complicated because our principal does not want the students or the teachers to be, out of class during instructional time. So we did have about 20, 30 minutes to meet. We just discussed our strengths and weaknesses. We already know our strengths. As far as middle school, we know our strengths and weaknesses, and that's math and reading. We had a Title I school. Good. We got a good diverse population at our school, and that's our main focus is math and reading because that's for years, even there before COVID. That's our weakness is math and reading, especially in middle school. But we are making some progress in reading. We just got to work on that math right now. But that's with the time that we had, um, I was trying to get to you know introduce everybody to what this PLC meeting was consistent of. But for the short time that we met, um, that's our that was our topic was our strengths and weaknesses of math and reading.
Awesome. Kelsey, your experiences?
Yeah, so I teach at a really small school. We only have about 24 teachers in our school. And so we all pull a lot of duties beyond just being teachers. So that's probably one of the hardest things is that we all already do so much that asking people to take on another role was a little nerve-wracking. Luckily, all my coworkers are pretty awesome, and the ones that I did ask were completely fine with it. They jumped right on board and were like, "Yep, I'll help you." And then beyond that, we don't have a principal right now. We have an assistant principal who it's her first year, and she's having to act as the principal, and she doesn't have anybody helping her, so she's kind of thrown in the deep end. So she joins as much as she can with our meetings, but she's oftentimes running around too busy. But my PLC is all math teachers because at our school, math is definitely our weakest weakest subject. And it's the only test that South Carolina gives middle schoolers that counts this year because ELA just got a um, new standards, so their test doesn't count this year. So math is the only one that counts this year. So we have a lot already on our plate trying to make sure that we make a lot of improvements to our scores, and our students are really, really low. So there, we have even a State Department liaison in right now helping us to do this. So she's been helping, but she hasn't been at our meetings. But my principal is, or my assistant principal, sorry, has been there as much as she can, which is totaled about 25 minutes. But she's there and she's great. And typically my conversations with her are like running through hallways with her. So it's been time is the hardest thing, as I think it always is for teachers. But otherwise, it's been good. My PLC is very helpful. They like to communicate, they like to help. So it's been a good experience so far.
That's been what I've found to be the case. My PLC is myself, my department assistant principal being in a high school. It's a different sort of world. And then I have our intervention specialist and our literacy coach for ELA, our math scores are crazy good compared to our ELA and science scores. But it's also new science standards in North Carolina this year for pretty much everyone, I believe. I know middle school and high school all have new standards.
Elementary also.
Well, I just started my weekly intern hours at the one of the elementary schools that feeds us. So I got thrown into that yesterday, and that was wild because little people are little. Um, so we my principal does a really good job of explaining why we are doing things. Once a semester in our staff meetings, we talk about what our data shows, and our data shows that our kids can't read. Um, why can't our kids read? I don't know. We're a very high minority school. 86.1% is minority. 61% of that is economically disadvantaged. So, you know, with all that, how can our kids do math so well when they can't read? And that's been the interesting thing to look at. I think Kelsey, you reviewed my first one and you wanted to know why there's no other teachers. The same reason that you're struggling with is there's so many things that we're asked to do that I have non-instructional people who are willing to help, who know the data, so then we can go through and have this conversation and it can be as concise as possible
Yeah.
when we have our meetings. So um, there's not fluff going around with that. Um, I've learned a lot just because I'm a social studies teacher. We don't have data. It's not tested. Um, I've had in 11 years, I've had 1 year where my students took a test. So what they learn is what I want them to learn and not necessarily what a test needs to learn.
Mhm.
Um, so that sums up task one. I think we all have experienced some similar things with that. Task two is our data dive. Um, what we saw, what we learned, um, how we felt, even though that was less about it. Um, Kelsey, will you start us off?
Sure. So kind of like what you were just saying, we talk about data all the time. I'm a math teacher, and because math is such a low point and we're so bearing the brunt of it this year to increase the scores. We've been talking about data all year long. And my principal, before she left, she's very data driven. So we have a PLC, not a PLC, I'm sorry. We have a PD period built into our schedules as math teachers. So we have a PD and a planning period. And every morning we have a meeting with all the math teachers. And if the ELA teachers can come, they do. And we go over data. So the data dive for me and for my team, it was like, okay, so all the things that we've talked about all year long, great. And so it was really kind of easy to do the data dive because it was stuff that we've talked about and discussed. So our data meeting was very, very quick. And we actually, the hardest part was just compiling. Like I used Mastery Connect data, which is our like testing software for in class. Compiling that was probably the hardest thing, and it wasn't difficult. It was just time consuming. But everything else, we already had it. Like it was just literally pulling it up and putting it into a PowerPoint. So it was really easy to do. And the conversation was really quick. It was like, hey, are we going to do math or ELA? Yes, I realize I'm asking a bunch of math teachers, but like looking at the data and they were like, math, it's 20% lower in terms of proficiency. That's a no-brainer. So we decided math like off the bat very quickly. Even if we hadn't been math teachers, it would have been math. And then the hardest thing that we had to kind of figure out was there was two strands that were really low. So data statistics and probability, and then equations, inequalities, and expressions. Both are very, very low. But we talked about which one is going to benefit our kids in the future more, and also which one kind of features on the test more. So expressions, inequalities, and equations is a larger content in our test. And so making sure that kids really understand that is probably more important than data statistics. Plus, our high school is getting rid of data statistics as a class. So when our students go on to high school, them understanding data statistics really isn't as important as really understanding algebra, because algebra is a requirement in order to graduate. So we decided to do algebra, even though if you really look at the scores, data statistics and probability is probably a little bit lower, but it's not going to help them as much in the future. So we wanted to not only pick what is an area of critical need, but also what's going to benefit them later on. And we also talked about how data statistics and probability, the main reason that kids score so low is it's at the end of our content. So when we run out of time before the test, that's the first thing that goes. And that to me, we talked about, that could just be as simple as start incorporating it into bell ringer, and at least they'll be exposed to it and they'll be able to answer those questions on the test, as opposed to like equations where if they don't have the actual content knowledge to do it, not just, oh, I've seen this before, but how do you actually solve this? They weren't going to be able to answer them. So that's how we kind of narrowed down what we were going to work on.
All right. Amanda, will you share where your thoughts are?
Okay, so for task 2, we did the data drive, and we're focusing on reading. I'm focusing mostly on second grade right now. Kindergarten was pretty solid. First grade was benchmark overall. There was one classroom, but we did not, that teacher had left. So we think we're okay for first grade this year. And then second grade, we had altogether 18 kids, which is really a class size, spread out through second grade that were below or very below. So we pulled those 18 kids and then we broke them down to see why, like what's the problem. The majority of them were the Hispanic population, which we understood part of the reason, like some just came to the States, and some of them just never got a good foundation of phonics and core instruction, maybe because of moving, maybe because of changing schools. But so what we decided for that group, because we know they're going to go to third grade. Um, we can't retain them because the language barrier. So they're going to third grade. So our goal was in third grade, we know is it's testing. So we want them to be able to read. And so we pulled those 18 kids. We're going to track it. They scored the lowest in phonics. They just don't have the foundation. So we know what their gap is, and now we're going to create intervention time slots where they each get 30 minutes to an hour a day focusing on phonics. And then we have a online program that also supports it if our EL teacher is not available. And so we're trying to all work together and talk the same language so that these kids are going to get a foundation and we can get them to be able to have the tools to be able to read. We're not going to say they're going to be on grade level, but we can teach them how to blend words, how to create words, how to read, how to build their confidence too, because they're going second grade going into third. They know they're behind. So we're trying to pull those 18 out because really that's going to be an entire class of third grade that's going to fail definitely if we don't do something quick. And we're going to track that by still using the M class data reports. And I'm a huge stickler for M class. Like I track that every 10 days. So every 10 days, I'll send it out school wide, but I'll go through every class to see who has progress monitored because that's the piece that should be creating your small groups. So we'll see if the interventions are working. We have very intentional plans, focusing on the vowels, sight words, and strategies to do blend as you go. So our goal is to at least get them at benchmark. My personal goal is to get them to exceed, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. Um, we looked at our EOC scores and the course scores because being a social studies teacher, I don't have any access to any of their breakdowns for any of their benchmarks or anything else. And I asked for it, but I didn't get it in time to write about it in task two. So I just used what I had, and it shows the same thing. Um, you know, the students I teach struggle with reading um, across almost all subgroups, except for the what academically gifted subgroup and our white students. And when your white students are 13% of a school, then that really doesn't help. And we do have a large ESL population. Um, we have a lot of students who are recently arrived or arrived after middle school, after elementary school, so they're trying to play catch up with 6 years worth of learning they have to do. Um, None of us were shocked with the data. Everyone in the PLC has been at the school for at least 2 years. Um, we're in the hallways. We know the kids. We talk to the kids, and that's what it is. I hear kids in the hallway ask to go places, and they can't say the words. And if you can't say the word, you can't read the word.
Can't read it.
Uh,
We find a lot of them do the word call or look at the pictures. And that's great, but there's no pictures really in third grade.
right.
So it's we just want to give them the tools and hopes that, and if they're clustered together, they won't be embarrassed. If they're in whole group, they won't say anything and they won't participate. But if you pull them as a small group, we find that their confidence, and you put them with the right support team, right? Like very
Yeah,
positive, upbeat person.
right. Corey, what's your experience with task two?
Um, I'm gonna just put it out there. Um, with task two, for me in my school, 7th, 8th grade, as a school counselor, I've been looking at the same data for 5 years now. It's we and we've had three principal changes in the last 3 years. So you go figure on that. But every year I've been there, I've been trying to put in some interventions for our kids after school, and like if we could get tutoring sessions for our kids after school. But nobody seems to hear my cry, and we are we look at the same our kids math and reading every year. It's the same issue, but I guess we don't have the funds or we don't have the staff to do it. I don't know, but this data that we're looking at is the same after year, and seems like nobody cares besides me. But you know, our math and reading has always been our top two issues. For some reason, our kids in 8th grade on check-ins and EOGs always do successful in science. I don't understand it. It's crazy to me, but I know our EOC scores and math and reading. Like I said, it comes every year. It always comes back to low performing, and nobody seems to listen. Our check-in scores they are absolutely the same. With our, like I told you earlier, our school is very diverse, with African Americans being the biggest population that we have. Then Hispanics, and also Native Americans. I think our school consists of probably about 10% Caucasian students. So um, some of the interventions that we talked about in the PLC is what can we really do when we see this data year after year. Um, it bothers me. It bothers me because it seems like nobody's concerned. But you want to go back and you want every sit team meeting or every staff meeting you want to talk about data. Well, let's do something. We see that this issue happens every year, and now don't get me wrong. In 7th, 8th grade, we have had a high turnover rate for middle school teachers. I thought people loved teaching, but middle school, I love middle school because as a school counselor, I have the patience. A lot of teachers don't have those patience, and it kind of reflects in our EOC scores and our check-ins. Because I know right now we have a ELA teacher, 7th grade. He's a long-term sub. Mm-hmm. So how wouldn't a long-term sub affect our EOC scores? And I know for a whole year for math and 8th grade, we went almost a whole year without a math teacher. But it's different type of variables that it's a lot to the puzzle. But that's something that we had discussed in our PLC. But it's sometimes it's quite mind-boggling that nobody really. I ain't gonna say they don't care, but we see the same data every year. But we keep getting the same results, and nobody wants to do anything different. As a school counselor, I can only do so much. I wish my principal. I'm not saying she's not, because she is, but we you can't get you can't continue to get the same results with old information. Something has to be done different where we can improve our EOC scores.
Absolutely. I just got the notification that we've got about 7.5 minutes left on our free Zoom meet since I started it a little bit early. So either if you want to talk about your findings in task 3 or anything that you found program wide that you want to share, I will go ahead and let you know that I'm going to keep track of this time wise so everybody gets to share. Corey, you want to start us off with anything else, challenges, task 3? We'll have about a minute and I'll give you a 5-minute warning by putting my hand up. Or 5 seconds, sorry.
As far as task 3,
task 3 or anything, challenges just overall that I think we've faced in the program.
Since I've started this, it's been a very hard challenge for me. Like I told you earlier, our principal do not want our kids or our teachers to be taken out of class in instructional time. As a counselor, I'm teaching classes as well. So my time is limited too. I hope they change my schedule where I can do more, but for our 7th and 8th grade students. But that's been my biggest challenge, man, is just time. It's like when I have my PLC meeting, it's like on the whim. I can't go in there and schedule a PLC for my teachers because I don't know what I'll be doing. I don't know, and I know what they be doing. They be in the classroom teaching. But one of my biggest challenges is my time, because I don't at work I don't have a whole lot of time to do different things.
Yeah, I feel that.
So
Amanda, your challenges, grows, anything
My
overall?
ch my pro is my principal definitely has my back and my team is supportive. I think we have a clear direction. And my challenge is just trying to balance everything, but I think that's with everybody.
mhm.
You see what's going on in the school and you need to go help and you're just pulled in every direction. But I think that we all have the same mission. We want what's best for the kids and what's best for the school. So we put some things aside sometimes and then we get overwhelmed. So just a balancing act, but I've got a lot of good support with my mission, I guess you'd say. Good things will come in 1 year, guys.
Kelsey?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. It just time and balance. And I've actually been kind of lucky. I'm a cheer coach as well, and it ended a week and a half ago, so I have a little more time again, which is nice. Has been helpful because that first week when I had to do all of it and internship and coach and teach, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. So that's over, which is good. But yeah, I have a supportive team. I have a great assistant principal. She's doing as much as she can. The internship hours are definitely the hardest. Just trying to find the time because we don't have subs. So like I can't take a class period and go do internship stuff because I don't have anybody to watch my kids. And I don't want to add more to other teachers to ask them to watch my kids for me. So that's probably the hardest thing is I'm trying not to inconvenience people as much as possible because that's not fair. And I know that they would do it. It just doesn't feel right to me to do that. So the internship hours have definitely been my largest struggle.
Yeah, I've had great support from my assistant principals. I have a really good relationship with two of them that I've worked with since I got to the school 4 years ago. Three of them are new to the school in the last 2 years, and I've really gotten to know and work with them. And there's so much information that they know and are willing to share. And, I have somebody at the school that will sit there and, cuss me out when I need it to calm down. Because like the internship hours last week when I found that out, I was in a panic because what I had been trying to do to be proactive was wrong. And then Thursday, I teach first, second, and third block. So I work from 7:25 until 12:48. And then I have my time to go do intern hours. And we can only, supervise so many hours. But we don't do meetings after school. We do everything during the school day. So that's been a big challenge. But one of my former assistant principals was announced as a principal in elementary school, and she's more than happy to have me show up on Fridays for as long as I can be there. And within the first 30 minutes of me being there yesterday, I had done cafeteria duty. I had sat in to the ILT meeting. I had sat in on an interview and all sorts of things just because they don't have four admin interns at the elementary school where we have four admin interns at my school. So, and then Wednesday night classes. That's my thing. If I had this on Tuesday, the class on Tuesday, I feel like I would still want it on Monday, but with Tuesday or not Wednesday at 7, then it would be easier to go through and make those time constraints feel a little less
Yep.
challenging. Um,
Hit panic attack on Wednesday nights or Thursday morning. I'm like, how am I gonna
yep,
get this all done?
Uh-huh.
And you don't want
that's
to
it.
ask people to do things on a Friday, but you're like, oh, but please, I'll bring
Yeah,
donuts.
right.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's been really helpful being able to talk to you all and see that we're all sort of going through the same
Definitely.
things, the same challenges. I appreciate you meeting at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning.
I
Um,
appreciate y'all because I'm the one that asked for it.
No,
well,
it's good. I'll get
I
it
thought
done
Thursday
and
night would be great, but you know, We are going to run up against the time. I will send you an email link that has the video recording. And thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You
Sounds
have a good
good,
one.
y'all.
You too. Bye bye.
Have a good